It was a rush job to replace Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX because they lost them. So
I think that's the best take there.
Yeah.
It was a rush job. They had a hole. Meanwhile, they're like all these moving parts and like, guys, we gotta do it. We find somebody. And then Prometheum was like, hey, I'll do it. So they just created this entity. Prometheum. Looks like we have a little press release here. Republicans press regulators regarding Prometheum's special purpose broker-dealer approval. Pat McHenry from North Carolina led the committee here in sending letters to FINRA President Robert Cook and SEC Chair Gary Gensler regarding Prometheum's approval as the first and only special purpose broker-dealer for digital assets. They came out of nowhere, got all these approvals, and no one ever heard of them before. We covered it months ago. What the heck is Prometheum? Where's Prometheum coming from? We discovered a lot of insiders. Some Republican senators, looks like they had some issues with it. Here we have a quote. I think this is McHenry here. The timing and circumstances surrounding the approval of Prometheum as the first special purpose broker-dealer here raises serious questions. The approval comes as the committee is considering addressing gaps in the regulation of digital assets. We held a joint hearing just 7 days ago prior to the approval of this asset or SBBD. In that hearing, members discussed their plan to propose legislation on digital asset market structure. While Prometheum claims it is a silver bullet for digital asset offerings, it has not yet served a single customer. It has also refused to make public the digital asset securities that they would support on its platform. And since they're limited to digital asset securities, the SEC has refused to provide any binding guidance on what digital assets are securities. It is unclear what assets would even be eligible. Here, I want to show this story as well. They respond. All right, so we got a response. So we got the Republicans. They're like, hey, this is fishy, stinks. They're ripping the mask off like it's Scooby-Doo. Something's not right here. What are your thoughts on the approval? Do you think there's any chance that there's no insiders?
No, there's absolutely insiders. And the fact that Congress is noticing it is actually a breath of fresh air. But there's clearly fishiness. Ben made a video. We posted it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe at this point, just on the sketchiness of this entire story. The coincidences just go too far to not have some weight to them.
All right. We have Asmir, F this ATL traffic. Hey, ATL in the house. Boomer Sooner, do this move. That's what I know. Actually, do that, or you do the wafting move, too. It's like a drowning man. All right, Prometheum responds to Republican concerns on the FINRA and the SEC approval. So Prometheum, they got a little response here. There's Pat McHenry. He's the one, raising the questions. So the LLC, the response takes the spotlight amid growing concerns raised by members of the House Financial Services Committee. Here we have friend of the channel, Eleanor Terrett, tweeting about it as well. In reactions, Prometheum issued a statement. The purpose built its technology with the goal to develop a market infrastructure for digital asset securities that is compliant with federal securities laws. So they basically said nothing while saying a whole lot of something there. In separate letters from House Committee, Pat McHenry and 22 other members, they directed it to the CEO of FINRA and Gensler. And, we kind of covered this, just kind of covering their concerns regarding the timing of the approval. One of the authors of the letters voiced his reservations and called for transparency regarding the approval of a company with strong ties to the CCP. Meanwhile, Coinbase CEO praised the letters and shared his concerns, remarking, blatantly political behavior from a regulator undermines trust in our institutions. Further emphasized the importance of equal treatment for all individuals under the law. Hey, what do we have here? Adding to the conversation, crypto influencer BitBoy Crypto echoed similar concerns regarding the links to the SEC, suggesting a potential undisclosed crypto takeover plan involving the crypto startup and the SEC chair. I will say this, it's going to be interesting. So defense industry, all right, so every time you see a general talking about, hey, we got to do this, and, they're on these committees and joint national, where do they end up? They end up at like Raytheon. They end up at Lockheed Martin. They end up in these other companies. We're going to follow Gary Gensler. And do you think Gary Gensler, I think he's going to have too much of a spotlight on him. He's not going to be able to take that Prometheum advisor. I think he's going to have too much of a spotlight to do those $150,000 speaking Zoom call. But we'll be watching.
It was a rush job to replace Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX because they lost them. So
I think that's the best take there.
Yeah.
It was a rush job. They had a hole. Meanwhile, they're like all these moving parts and like, guys, we gotta do it. We find somebody. And then Prometheum was like, hey, I'll do it. So they just created this entity. Controlling humans isn't as easy as it used to be, Mark the Shark. That's what he says. Yeah, dang that pesky internet and people, sharing ideas and objectives.
Yeah, that's true.
Although we do have big tech censorship. Drew, what are your thoughts on big tech censorship? Is it overblown, understated?
Understated. I would say so. And it's got amazing capabilities. You can speak in metaphors about specific information that's public domain, and you can be kind to the community, and the algorithmic robots will still find you. So it's got very powerful potentials that I've experienced personally.